The planet Tethys had always seemed distant, an isolated ice world on the edge of charted space. It was a place with little strategic value until the day it wasn't, when the Galactic Dominion discovered an invaluable mineral beneath its icy surface. The orders went out swiftly. Humanity would be stripped of Tethys. Like every other world they had dared to colonize on Dominion space, the humans were, after all, just tolerated tenants of the Dominion's galaxy. But things on Tethys went differently. The Dominion's armada arrived as they always did, in black-clad ships bristling with plasma cannons. Their officers, a cold-blooded reptilian race known as the Zealth, scouted Tethys with minimal caution. They expected submission, not resistance. They didn't expect anything from the humans, a species they'd long dismissed as primitive and weak. But then, the first Grand Team vanished. An entire scouting battalion went dark on a frost-bitten ridge overlooking the colony. For once, the aliens felt something unfamiliar, unease. Then came the signal, a faint, looping message that bled across Dominion frequencies. It was a human voice, and it was laughing. "You think we're done, just because you've shown up with guns? You think we'll just lie down and let you take our home?" The voice was clear, resolute. "Come and get us, but remember, the harder you come, the harder you fall." The Zealth commanders were infuriated, dismissing the message as foolhardy bravado. The humans were outmatched down scenes of warships in orbit, armed squads on the ground, and sophisticated drone fleets buzzing through Tethys skies. But the humans were prepared. They had adapted, learned to hide in the ice chasms and the network of tunnels that wove through Tethys glaciers like veins. As the Dominion forces advanced, they encountered fierce, unpredictable resistance, silent traps, remote detonated explosives, thin trails of icy mist, as humans skated over frown-seam chasms and ambushed from above. Using the terrain to their advantage, they knew the environment better than the Zealth, and they used it with precision. One by one, Dominion forces fell, outsmarted by the humans' guerrilla tactics. Each time the aliens thought they had cornered their quarry, the humans slipped through their fingers, leaving nothing behind but eerie silence and the odd mocking message, "Still here." What the Dominion had failed to understand, and what the humans had quietly prepared for, was that humanity wasn't just fighting for territory. They were fighting for survival. They were fighting with the intensity of those who had everything to lose. Tethys wasn't just another colony, it was home. Days turned into weeks, and the Dominion's foothold began to weaken. Humanity's resistance was relentless, a torrent that crashed against the alien invaders with unyielding fury. Each victory fueled the fire within every man, woman, and child on Tethys, spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. In the end, it was the Dominion forces who fled. They left Tethys as they'd come, battered and defeated. The ice world, once dismissed as insignificant, had become a symbol of human resilience, a place where humanity had drawn a line in the cold, unyielding ice. As the last of the Dominion ships limped back into deep space, the final message was broadcast from Tethys, a signal that would echo through the stars, marking a turning point for every species in the Dominion. Humanity isn't just surviving, we're fighting back. The Dominion's retreat was short-lived. Bruised pride and promises of vengeance drove them back, this time with an even larger fleet. Commanded by the iron-fisted Admiral Exarith, the Dominion forces landed with precision and sheer numbers on Tethys, determined to crush humanity's resistance for good. But Tethys had changed. While the Dominion licked its wounds and planned their return, humanity had transformed. Across the icy plains, colonies were bolstered with fortifications, tunnel networks expanded, and everyone trained from former miners and scientists to young children, who now knew every inch of the ice-choked land they called home. Admiral Exarith expected a final push, a desperate battle where he would stab out the last vestiges of humanity on Tethys. But his soldiers began to notice something chilling. The humans were stronger, faster, and far more organized than they'd anticipated. Advanced weaponry had appeared in their ranks, an assortment of stolen, repurposed Dominion tech adapted to function flawlessly in the extreme cold. The humans fought as if they knew every inch of the terrain, maneuvering through the blizzards and the ice fields with eerie precision. The more Exarith sent his troops forward, the more it seemed they disappeared into the icy abyss, drawn in by ghostly human figures, who lured them deeper into hostile territory. "Admiral," one of his commanders hissed, "we're losing squads by the hour. These humans know our tactics. They've intercepted our codes. Exirath seethed, issuing harsher commands, sending out search parties for any human stragglers. He was hell-bent on proving to his superiors that he was capable of subduing the so-called Ice World savages, and finally reclaiming Dominion pride. But as night fell over Tethys, a snowstorm gathered strength, then came a familiar broadcast. The chilling voice of a human crackled through every Dominion comm unit. "We told you, come and get us. The harder you come, the harder you fall." The human assault began in force. Waves of fighters in tactical gear emerged from the mist, equipped with the cold, calculated resolve of a species fighting for survival. They didn't just outnumber the Dominion on the ground, they outsmarted them. In one decisive encounter, Dominion troops came face to face with specialized human assault teams, infantry units fitted with snow-adaptive exoskeletons, shields that absorbed plasma fire, and rifles that emitted kinetic projectiles capable of piercing Dominion armor. The humans' weaponry was a jigsaw puzzle of scavenged tech and homemade gadgets, but it was devastatingly effective. One of Exirath's personal guard units was overwhelmed by a blast from what the humans had proudly nicknamed the Hammer, a makeshift railgun that fired tungsten spikes salvaged from a mining drill. The impact shattered the Dominion's front lines and sent shockwaves across the battlefield. For days, the humans hit hard, appearing from unexpected directions and luring Dominion troops into bottlenecks, only to vanish into the tundra, leaving nothing but frowsing bodies and echoes of their mocking taunts. As the days dragged on, Exirath found himself trapped in his command post, surrounded by fewer and fewer soldiers. Rumors of human insurgents making their way through the Dominion encampments left him sleepless. The ice itself seemed to carry a pulse, beating with the unyielding determination of those who called it home. Then, in one final, desperate act, Exirath broadcasted a plea for reinforcements, but silence was his only response. It dawned on him too late. The Dominion had cut their losses, Tethys was considered cursed, and reinforcements would not come. The humans didn't let Exirath leave without a farewell. As dawn broke on the frowning horizon, they stormed the command post, every inch of their resolve hard as steel. Exirath and his remaining soldiers were no match. When humanity finally stood victorious over the fallen admiral, they held a broadcast for all to hear across the galaxy. Tethys stands free. Against all odds, humanity fights back, and the harder they come, the harder they fall. In that final act, humanity sent a message far beyond the icy reaches of Tethys, a resounding cry that stirred worlds across Dominion space. It wasn't just Tethys that was free, no, it was the spirit of humanity, unbreakable and ready for whatever came next. The Dominion underestimated humanity one last time. Word of Tethys' victory spread like wildfire through Dominion territories and beyond. Reports trickled in of oppressed colonies, daring to defy their alien overlords, rallying under the cry of "the harder they come, the harder they fall." The Dominion scrambled to contain the emboldened human colonies, dispatching ships to stifle rebellions on frontier worlds. But these new uprisings weren't isolated, they were coordinated. The humans on Tethys had relayed Dominion tactics, weapon schematics, and encryption codes to human colonies across the galaxy. The same makeshift weapons and snow-adaptive gear that helped Tethys defeat the Dominion now appeared on backwater worlds, hidden away in shadowy bunkers and makeshift assembly lines. In a desperate bid to prevent a full-scale uprising, the Dominion organized a summit on Alteris Prime, the capital world, a gleaming metropolis that represented the height of Dominion power. Dominion leaders, governors, and commanders from countless worlds gathered, each bearing tales of human defiance. 4 days, they debated and argued, the halls echoing with complaints and bitter accusations, but all were silenced when Supreme Leader Zither addressed the assembly. "These humans," Zither sneered, "have spread like a virus. We have crushed stronger species for far less, yet we face growing dissent in our ranks. Our soldiers fear these humans." The assembly buzzed with unrest. A few bolder governors spoke up, warning of the humans' resilience, their adaptability, their fierce loyalty to one another. But Zither, eyes narrowed, refused to back down. "They are still just a primitive species. We will eradicate them, every colony, every outpost. Humanity will be wiped from Dominion space." The plan was simple. Zither's forces would launch simultaneous assaults on every major human colony, striking so hard and fast that no colony could lend support to another. With overwhelming force, the Dominion prepared for what they called the final purge. But humanity had anticipated this. On the far-flung human colony of Seraph, where crimson skies shrouded a network of dense jungles, the Dominion made their first strike. Thousands of zealot troops marched through the undergrowth, confident in their numbers and firepower, but they found the jungle eerily quiet. The usual buzz of life was absent. Something was very wrong. Suddenly, a series of explosions rippled through their ranks, uprooting trees and sending soldiers sprawling. From the dense foliage, human guerrilla fighters emerged, their faces marked with a determined grimace, a glint of defiance in their eyes. They fought with an almost animalistic ferocity, armed with weapons improvised from salvaged Dominion tech and the natural resources of Seraph. Plasma traps, razor vine snares, and electrically charged spear guns felled the Zealth by the hundreds. Back on Arteris Prime, the Dominion was blindsided by a coordinated cyber attack that crippled their communications. Their own surveillance drones turned against them, broadcasting every failure, every defeat, directly into Dominion-controlled sectors, showing every citizen and every conquered species that humanity had struck back. For the first time in recorded Dominion history, they faced the threat of rebellion from within. The Dominion's greatest stronghold crumbled under a force they had never anticipated. Hope, inspired by humanity's defiance, species long subjugated, rose up across the galaxy. The Drokar, amphibious engineers enslaved for centuries, sabotaged their industrial world. The Azar, stealthy and cunning, used their cloaking technology to free imprisoned kin across Dominion territories. And the humans were everywhere, leading the charge, inspiring, teaching. When Dominion forces arrived at the final human stronghold on the industrial world of Alta, they found an army waiting, soldiers, medics, engineers, humans, and countless others who had joined their cause. They stood ready, their weapons drawn, a ragtag yet unbreakable coalition. A human stepped forward, his voice projected across the Dominion ranks. This ends here. No longer will we cower beneath your rule. You underestimated us, but we're just getting started. 4 hours, they fought with fury and precision, humanity and their allies leveraging every trick they'd learned. Dominion forces fell in waves, their vaunted soldiers reduced to scattered bands, their heavy armor no match for the relentless, united onslaught of species who had endured lifetimes of oppression. When the smoke finally cleared, it was humanity and those who fought alongside them that stood victorious on the bloodied ground. The Dominion was shattered, their territories freed one by one. The galaxy was no longer a place ruled by the iron grip of the Zealth and their allies, but a place where every species could forge its own destiny. As the news spread across the stars, one phrase echoed from world to world, as much a warning as it was a battle cry. The harder they come, the harder they fall. With the fall of the Dominion, the galaxy was left in a rare state of freedom, but also in a state of uncertainty. For centuries, the Dominion had controlled trade, transport, and security across its sprawling territories. Now, as worlds celebrated their newfound independence, many of them struggled with the daunting reality of self-governance. Chaos loomed in the vacuum left behind, and humanity, once scattered and oppressed, now found itself standing at the helm of an unlikely coalition of free worlds. Leaders from liberated planets converged on Tethys, the icy stronghold where humanity had first resisted the Dominion. Representatives from downscenes of species filled the towering ice hall the humans had carved out of the glacier, a place that had become legendary across the galaxy. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what this new alliance would mean. Could they bring order to the chaos? Could they prevent new tyrants from rising where the Dominion had fallen? A human representative, Commander Leela Reyes, stood before the assembled leaders. Her eyes were steely, her posture straight and unyielding. Tethys had hardened her, as it had hardened every human who had fought there. "Thank you all for coming," Reyes began, her voice echoing in the vast hall. "We stand together not just because we defeated a common enemy, but because we believe in something greater, a future where no species has to live in fear. We fought not just for freedom, but for the right of every world, every race, to forge their own path." Murmurs of agreement swept through the crowd. There was respect in their eyes, and a hint of wariness too. Many knew that humanity, despite its humble beginnings under Dominion rule, had proven itself a formidable force. Reyes continued, but freedom doesn't come without responsibility. There are wounded worlds that need rebuilding, liberated planets that need guidance, and as much as we've resisted unity in the past, I believe that the only way forward is to work together not under a new dominion, but in a coalition where every voice matters. The idea of a coalition struck a nerve. While many species were eager for stability, others were wary of being controlled again. One of the first to speak up was Verkoth, a towering, grey-skinned warrior from the Azar, his eyes flashing with intensity. "We have no wish to replace one master with another," he said, his voice low and powerful. "We fought alongside you for freedom, not to be ruled again." Reyes nodded, acknowledging the concern. "That's exactly why we're here, Verkoth. Every species in this coalition has an equal voice, an equal stake. No one controls anyone else. The only purpose of this alliance is to ensure that no tyrant can ever rise to power over us again. We all commit to defending one another's freedom." This assurance calmed some, but others remained skeptical. They'd seen empires rise and fall, and they knew that promises of equality often eroded under the weight of power. Sensing this hesitation, Reyes held up a small device, a simple communications transponder that had been salvaged from an early skirmish on Tethys. It had been one of humanity's first pieces of stolen Dominion tech, cracked open and rewired to help them fight back. "Every species here has suffered in ways others can't imagine," Reyes said, holding the device high. "We each had scars. We each have our own unique strengths, but this," she gestured to the crowd, "to the gathering of different races, is how we survived. Not by seeking dominance, but by using everything we had, by trusting one another. We all bring something to this coalition." Slowly, Verkoth nodded, his defiance melting into grudging respect. The crowd of representatives was silent, some staring at the device, others watching Reyes. Then a voice called out from the back end of the drill car engineers, her eyes bright. "What will we call this alliance?" For a moment, Reyes didn't respond. She looked out over the assembled species, remembering all that humanity had endured. They had risen from the very edge of extinction, fought for every inch of freedom, in doing so, had earned the respect of worlds that had once looked down on them. Finally, she spoke. "We'll call it the Accord of the Free, and its motto," she paused, a faint, defiant smile playing at her lips, "is one we all know well." Across the hall, humans and allies alike picked up the chant, voices swelling, echoing off the ice walls of Tethys. "The harder they come, the harder they fall." Epilogue. The Accord of the Free became a beacon for worlds in need, a defense pact that fought not for conquest, but for protection. Species that had once barely tolerated one another now forged alliances, sharing knowledge, trade, and security. And humanity, once oppressed and overlooked, now took its place among the galaxy's champions of freedom. The Dominion's ruins still lay scattered across many worlds, a haunting reminder of the past, but in their place, a new era dawned, a coalition as resilient as the ice of Tethys and as unbreakable as the resolve of those who had fought for it. And as long as the Accord held, no one, human or otherwise, would ever again underestimate the power of the free.